Lena and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5, and built a comfortable life together. Sure, we had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I thought we had a solid enough foundation to last. But lately, things had changed. Lena had become distant. Always glued to her phone, texting late at night, laughing at messages she'd never shared with me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe work was stressing her out, or maybe she was just reconnecting with old friends, but then she started going out more, much more often than she ever had before. At first, it was once a month with friends. Then once a week. Then suddenly it was every weekend. It's just a girls' night out, baby, she would say, putting on a dress that was tighter than anything I'd ever seen her wear. She would come home late, sometimes at 3 in the morning, smelling of expensive perfume, with her makeup smeared and her heels dangling from her toes. And when I asked her how her night had been, ugh, as usual, she would say, waving me away like it didn't matter, but it did, because the more she went out, the less it seemed like she cared about me, and deep down, I knew something was wrong. At first, I tried to ignore it, tried to be the understanding husband, the guy who didn't get jealous when his wife wanted to go out with friends. I told myself it was normal for her to need a social life outside of our marriage, but the signs kept piling up. She stopped being affectionate. The woman who used to cuddle up next to me on the couch now barely even kissed me goodnight. She started dressing differently, tighter dresses, higher heels, bolder makeup. She looked like a different person when she went out. She never invited me anymore. It used to be, hey, want to come with me? But now, it was always, just a girls' night, babe. You wouldn't like it. At first, I let it slide. But then I noticed something that really made my stomach turn. Her phone. Lena had never been secretive with it before. She used to leave it on the counter, unlocked, never worrying about who saw it, but now, it was always face down. She had put a password on it that I didn't know. She took it everywhere, even to the bathroom, and worst of all, she was always texting, but whenever I walked into the room, she'd lock her screen in a split second. That's when I knew something was happening, and she didn't want me to see it. One night, Lena was in the shower, and her phone was charging on the nightstand. For the first time in our marriage, I did something I never thought I would do. I checked it. I wasn't proud of it, but my gut feeling had been screaming at me for weeks. I picked up the phone, pressed the screen, locked. Of course, but then it lit up with a notification. A text from a name I didn't recognize. Jason, last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. My entire body tensed. I read the words over and over, my stomach twisting into knots. Last night, she told me she was just out with friends. I put the phone down just as I heard the water turn off. My mind was racing. My hands were shaking. Lena walked into the bedroom, a towel wrapped around her, humming to herself like nothing had happened. You okay? She asked when she saw me. I forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I needed more proof. I needed to catch her in the act, and that's exactly what I planned to do. That text from Jason haunted me. I wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe he was just a friend. Maybe I was overreacting, but deep down, I knew the truth. Lena was cheating on me, and I needed to catch her red-handed. The next weekend, Lena started getting ready to go out again. Another girls' night? I asked casually, watching as she slipped into a tight black dress that hugged every curve. She smiled, adjusting her hair in the mirror. Yeah, babe. You know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. Where are you going? I pressed. She hesitated, just for a second. A flicker of something crossed her face before she covered it up with another fake smile. Same place as always. You don't need to worry so much. But I was worried, and I wasn't going to sit at home like an idiot while she snuck off to be with someone else. So the moment she walked out the door, I grabbed my keys. I was following her. I stayed a few cars behind her, my heart pounding in my chest as I tailed her downtown. She pulled into a parking lot outside a nightclub, Eclipse. I had never even heard of it before. It wasn't the kind of place she would have gone to when we were happy. The line outside was packed with younger people, loud music pulsing from inside, the kind of club where inhibitions disappeared fast. I parked across the street, watching as she stepped out of her car, and then, I saw him, Jason, tall, confident, dressed like he owned the place, and the way Lena smiled at him. It wasn't how a married woman greets a friend. She walked up to him, running her hand down his arm, leaning in close as he whispered something in her ear, and then, she kissed him, right there in the parking lot, in front of everyone. A deep, passionate kiss that I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. This wasn't a mistake, this wasn't a misunderstanding, she knew exactly what she was doing. And she didn't care that I had seen enough. It was time for Lena to face the truth. I got out of my car, walked across the street, and headed straight for them. She had no idea what was coming. I walked straight across the street, heart pounding, adrenaline surging through my veins. Lena and Jason were still standing by the entrance of the club, completely oblivious to the fact that I was about to ruin their little night. She had her hands on his chest, laughing at something he whispered in her ear. She looked happy. Carefree, like a woman who wasn't married, like a woman who didn't have a husband sitting at home, waiting for her. That realization hit me harder than I expected. I had spent years loving this woman, giving her everything, trusting her, only for her to treat me like I was nothing. Not anymore. I stepped forward, my voice loud and clear over the music and chatter of the club entrance. So this is what girls' night looks like? Lena froze, her body stiffened immediately, her head snapping toward me. For a second, her face went pale. Then, just as quickly, she composed herself, trying to mask her shock with fake confidence. Tom? What are you doing here? She asked, forcing a laugh, acting like I was some random guy who had just walked into the wrong place. Jason looked between us, confused but not saying a word. I took a step closer, keeping my voice steady. I could ask you the same thing, Lena. You said you were going out with your friends. Her eyes darted around, like she was trying to figure out a way out of this. Yeah, I was. I mean, they're inside. I just ran into Jason. I laughed. A bitter, humorless laugh. Ran into him? So you just accidentally made out with him in the parking lot? Jason shifted awkwardly, finally realizing what was happening. Wait, you're her husband? I turned to him, my glare sharp. Yeah. And who the hell are you? He took a step back, raising his hands like he wanted no part of this. Man, I didn't know she was married. That made Lena snap. Oh, come on, Jason. You knew I was seeing someone. I told you it was complicated. Complicated, that word set me off. I clenched my jaw, my patience gone. You told him it was complicated instead of telling him you were married? She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms like I was the one being dramatic. Well, it kind of is, isn't it? You've been so distant lately, and honestly, I didn't think you even cared anymore. That nearly made me lose it. Are you serious right now? I've been distant? Maybe because my wife has been sneaking out every weekend, lying to my face, and making out with strangers in parking lots? She sighed, rubbing her temples like she was the one dealing with something stressful. Tom, can we not do this here? Let's just go home and talk. Oh, now you want to talk. I cut her off, shaking my head. We had years to talk, Lena. But you didn't want to talk. You wanted to cheat. Jason, who clearly didn't want to be involved in this any longer, muttered something under his breath and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. But I wasn't finished. Tell me the truth, I said, my voice lower now, sharper. How long has this been going on? Lena shifted uncomfortably, glancing around like she wanted to escape. I stepped forward. Tell me. She hesitated. Then, finally, she sighed. A couple months. I exhaled slowly, nodding to myself. So all those nights you said you were out with your friends? You were actually here. With him. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her silence was my answer. I took one last look at the woman I had spent years building a life with and realized, I don't even know who she is anymore. Whatever love I had left for her was gone. I turned around and started walking away. Tom, wait. Please, she called after me, but I didn't stop. She had already made her choice. Now, it was time for me to make mine. That I didn't look back. That I could still hear Lena calling my name, her voice shrill with desperation, but I didn't care anymore. The second I saw her in Jason's arms, something inside me had broken, and I wasn't about to try fixing it. That I pushed through the crowd of people outside the nightclub, my hands shaking, my mind racing. I had suspected she was cheating, but seeing it with my own eyes, that was something else entirely. By the time I reached my car, my anger had settled into something colder. That I'm done. That I got in, slammed the door shut, and just sat there for a moment. My fingers gripped the steering wheel as I tried to process everything. She had lied. Over and over again. She had looked me in the eye and made me feel crazy for doubting her, all while she was sneaking around behind my back. And the worst part? She didn't even seem sorry, she was only upset because I caught her. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone was blowing up. Lena, Tom, please. Let's talk, Lena. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, Lena, just come home. We can fix this. That I ignored them all. She wanted to fix this. There was nothing left to fix. That I walked inside the house, the home we had built together, and for the first time, it didn't feel like mine anymore. The walls, the furniture, the photos of us smiling on vacations, they all felt like part of a lie. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started packing. Clothes, essentials, anything I needed for a few nights away. Staying here, in the place where we had once been happy, was no longer an option. Just as I zipped up the bag, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a call, from Lena. I stared at the screen, debating whether or not to answer. Then, before I could stop myself, I picked up. Tom, please, she breathed, her voice shaking. Can we talk? There's nothing left to say, Lena, I said flatly. There is. I swear it wasn't what it looked like. I laughed bitterly. Oh really? Because it looked like you were making out with another guy in a parking lot. But please, go ahead, what's your excuse this time? She hesitated. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. You weren't thinking for 2 months. I snapped. Silence. That's what I thought, I muttered. She took a deep breath. Tom, I made a mistake. I know I messed up, but please don't throw everything away over one stupid night. That was it. That was the moment I realized just how little she thought of me. You already threw everything away, Lena, I said coldly. I'm just cleaning up the mess. And with that, I hung up. I grabbed my bag and walked out the door, not knowing exactly where I was going, but knowing one thing for sure. I wasn't coming back. Lena had made her choice, and now, I was making mine. Driving away from that house felt like a weight was finally lifting off my chest. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but anywhere was better than being there, trapped in a place filled with lies, betrayal, and memories that no longer felt real. I pulled into a gas station parking lot a few miles down the road and just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process everything. This wasn't just a breakup, this was my marriage falling apart in real time. And the worst part? I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt angry, angry that I had trusted her, angry that I had ignored the signs, angry that she had the audacity to act like I was overreacting. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the dozens of texts from Lena, all some version of, please talk to me, or, we can fix this. I wasn't responding. I needed time. I needed space. And I needed to figure out my next move. I called my best friend, Mark, the only person I knew would have my back, no questions asked. Dude, what's up? He answered. I need a place to crash, I said, my voice rough. There was a brief pause. Then, did she do something? Yeah, I exhaled. She did. Come over. Now. When I pulled up to his apartment, Mark was already waiting outside, a beer in one hand and a look on his face that told me he wasn't going to let me suffer alone. I grabbed my bag from the car, walked up to him, and before I could even say anything, he just shook his head. She cheated, didn't she? I swallowed hard. Yeah. That's all I needed to hear. We went inside, and for the first time all night, I let myself just breathe. Lying on Mark's couch that night, staring at the ceiling, it finally started to sink in. This was real. Lena had really betrayed me, and my marriage was really over and I wasn't going to be the one fighting to save it, because it wasn't worth saving. That I pulled out my phone one last time and scrolled through Lena's messages. She was still begging. Still making excuses, but she hadn't said the one thing that actually mattered. She never said she was sorry. That was all the proof I needed. That I blocked her number, put my phone on the nightstand, and closed my eyes. That I didn't know exactly what came next, but I knew one thing for sure, that I wasn't going back. The next morning, I woke up to the unfamiliar feeling of silence. No morning texts from Lena, no fake sweet kisses before she left for work, no pretending like everything was fine. That IT was over, and for the first time, I wasn't waking up as someone's husband, I was waking up as my own person. Mark had already been up for a while, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and his phone in his hand. When I walked in, he just nodded toward the counter. "Got you a coffee. Figured you'd need it." I grabbed the cup and sat down across from him. "So," he started, "you blocking her for good, or are you gonna let her drag this out?" "I blocked her last night," I said, taking a sip. "I don't need to hear her excuses." Mark smirked. "Good. She doesn't deserve to be heard." He wasn't wrong, but even though I had cut her off, the anger was still there. The betrayal was still burning in my chest. I had spent years thinking Lena and I were building a future together, only to realize she had been tearing it down behind my back. "I just don't get it," I muttered, staring into my coffee. "Why? Why throw everything away like that?" Mark leaned back in his chair. "Some people just suck, man. She got bored, she got selfish, and instead of fixing things or leaving like an adult, she took the easy way out." I nodded, but it still didn't feel real. That I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't crying. That I was just angry, and I knew I couldn't just sit here, feeling like this. That I had to do something about it. Later that day, I pulled out my laptop and logged into our shared bank account. That I didn't know why, I just had a feeling, and sure enough, there it was: suspicious transactions. A hotel charge from 2 months ago. Expensive dinners at places we had never been to together. An Uber receipt from his neighborhood. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment mistake, this affair had been happening. For a while. Lena hadn't just cheated, she had lied to my face for months, and the rage I felt in that moment, it was enough to make sure I never forgave her. I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let Lena walk away from this without consequences. She wanted to betray me? Fine, but she was about to find out that I wasn't the kind of guy to roll over and take it. The next step was divorce, and I was going to make sure she got exactly what she deserved. Once I saw the bank transactions, everything clicked into place. Lena hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, she had been spending our money on him, and that pushed me over the edge. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to make sure she didn't get a single thing from me. I picked up my phone and called the best divorce lawyer I could find. "How soon can we meet?" I asked the moment she answered. "I have availability tomorrow morning," she said. "What's the situation?" "My wife cheated," I said flatly. "And I want to make sure she doesn't take a dime from me." She exhaled sharply. "Do you have proof?" I opened my laptop, staring at the bank transactions, the messages I had screenshotted, the video I had taken at the nightclub. "Oh, I have plenty." I wasn't going to tell Lena I was filing for divorce, not yet. I wanted to see if she would keep lying to my face. So that evening, when she called from a different number, I finally answered. "Tom," she breathed, like she was relieved. "I thought you blocked me." "I did," I said coldly. She sniffled, like she had been crying. "Can we please talk? I need you to hear me out." "All right," I said. "Talk." She hesitated. She wasn't expecting me to be calm. "It was just a mistake, Tom," she said, voice breaking. I wasn't thinking clearly. "You know I love you." I nearly laughed. "You love me? You've been sneaking around with Jason for months. Do you think I'm an idiot?" "It wasn't like that," she cried. "I mean, yes, she stopped herself. "Go on," I said. "Say it." She let out a shaky breath. "We slept together." But Tom, it didn't mean anything. I swear. I felt like we weren't connected anymore, and he was just there. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tightly. So instead of talking to me, you decided to sleep with some random guy you met at a club? It wasn't like that, she repeated, her voice desperate. Then what was it like, Lena? I snapped. Silence. Then, in a soft voice, she said, I don't know. And that was all I needed to hear. I'll be home tomorrow, she continued. We can talk then. Please, Tom, just let me fix this. I smirked. She still thought she was in control. All right, I said. Come home tomorrow. She let out a breath of relief. Okay. Thank you. I love you, Tom. I didn't say it back, because by the time she got home, I was going to be gone, and the divorce papers, they'd be waiting for her. The next morning, I woke up knowing exactly what I had to do. Lena thought she was coming home to talk things out, to manipulate me into believing her lies, but she had no idea that by the time she walked through that door, I would already be gone. That I didn't take much, just the essentials, clothes, important documents, my laptop. I didn't want anything that reminded me of her, of US.as. I threw my things into a duffel bag. I looked around our home, the framed photos of us on the walls. Fake memories, the bed we used to share. A place she had probably thought about him instead of me, the couch where we watched movies together. Meaningless now, everything about this place felt tainted and I wanted nothing to do with it anymore. Before I walked out, I placed a manila envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, the divorce papers. My lawyer had already drawn them up, making sure I was protected. With the evidence I had, Lena wasn't getting a single cent from me. I also left one last note, short, simple, and to the point. Lena, you made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I'm done. Don't contact me. I didn't need to say anything else. She would understand, and she would regret it. I grabbed my bag, took one last look around, and walked out. By the time Lena got home, she'd realize she had lost everything. She wouldn't have me, she wouldn't have my money, she wouldn't have a second chance, she would have nothing, and that was exactly what she deserved. I didn't linger outside the house. There was no point in waiting for Lena to come back and put on another performance, no reason to hear her fake tears or listen to more of her well-rehearsed lies. I drove away, feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time, I wasn't weighed down by suspicion, anger, or heartbreak. I was free, but I still wanted to know how she would react when she walked into the house and saw that I was gone. And sure enough, it didn't take long for the messages to start flooding in. I parked at a diner a few miles away, grabbed a coffee, and watched my phone light up with Lena's frantic attempts to reach me. First, it was denial. Lena, Tom? Where are you? I just got home. Where's all your stuff? Then, confusion. Lena, are you staying somewhere else for a few days? Can we just talk? Then, realization. Lena, what is this? Divorce papers? What the hell, Tom? I smirked, taking a slow sip of my coffee. Then came anger. Lena, you can't just leave like this. We're married. Lena, at least have the decency to talk to me first. I didn't reply. She was spiraling, and I knew exactly why. She never thought I would actually leave. She thought she could lie, cheat, and manipulate her way out of this, just like she had been doing for months. She thought she still had control, but she didn't. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Lena, I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, another call. Then another. Finally, I answered. Tom, she gasped, like she had just run a marathon. Where are you? What the hell is this? It's exactly what it looks like, I said calmly. No, it's not, she snapped. You're overreacting. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. Explain what, Lena? I asked, my voice cold. That you accidentally slept with another man? That all those nights you said you were with your friends, you were actually with him? She was silent. I continued. Because the bank statements don't lie. Neither does the security footage. Neither do my own eyes, Lena. I saw you with him at the club. And the only thing you cared about was that you got caught. Tom, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. I messed up. I know I did. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy, no, we can't. She inhaled sharply. You're really doing this? I already did. Silence, then, in a shaky, desperate voice, she said the one thing I had been waiting for. I'm sorry. It was too late. Goodbye, Lena, I said, then I hung up and this time, I blocked her for good that I didn't cry. I didn't feel regret that I felt peace, she had made her choice, now, I was making mine. No more lies. No more pain. No more Lena. It was finally over and I was ready to start again. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. No more waiting up at night, wondering where Lena was. No more second-guessing myself, feeling like I was losing my mind. No more being lied to by the person who was supposed to love me the most. But freedom didn't come without a price. The next morning, I woke up in Mark's guest room. The unfamiliar ceiling above me a reminder that everything had changed. No routine. No wife in the next room. No future that I had once imagined. For the first few seconds, I felt off balance, then I remembered why I was here, and I smiled because even though I didn't know exactly what came next, I knew one thing for certain, it was going to be better than what I left behind. By midday, my email inbox was flooded with Lena's last-ditch attempts to get me to talk. At first, she was apologetic. Tom, please. I never meant to hurt you. I made a terrible mistake, but we've been through so much. Don't throw it all away. Then she was defensive. You're acting like I did this just to hurt you. I was lonely, Tom. You were distant. You stopped trying, too. Then she tried. Guilt. After everything we've built, this is how you treat me? You won't even hear me out. And finally, anger. Fine. You want to walk away like a coward? Go ahead. But don't pretend you were the perfect husband. I read every word without feeling a thing. She still didn't get it. She wasn't sorry for what she did, she was sorry that I refused to forgive her, and that only confirmed that blocking her was the right decision. The next day, I walked into my lawyer's office and signed the divorce papers. Are you sure about this? She asked, flipping through the pages. I nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. It was official. Lena had lost me, and I had gained myself back. That evening, Mark and I sat on his balcony, drinking beers and watching the sun set over the city. So, he said, glancing at me. What now? I exhaled slowly, taking in the fresh air, the quiet peace of not being tied to someone who had no respect for me. Now? I smirked. Now, I start living for me. And for the first time in a long, long time, I meant it. The days after signing the divorce papers felt surreal. For years, Lena had been my world. My best friend. My partner. Or at least, that's what I thought. But now, looking back, I realized that I had been in a marriage where I was the only one truly committed. I wasn't grieving her. I was grieving the time I wasted. Everything about my life had revolved around us, our shared morning coffee, weekend plans, even the way I planned my future. Now I was relearning what life looked like without her. I started going to the gym again. Not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I wanted to. I picked up old hobbies. Woodworking, something I had loved before Lena made me feel like it was a waste of time. I reconnected with old friends. People I hadn't seen in years because I had been too busy making excuses for a woman who didn't deserve my loyalty. And you know what? It felt damn good. One afternoon, as I was sitting on Mark's balcony, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. At first, I almost ignored it. But something told me to check. It was a message from Jason. Hey man. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say something. I raised an eyebrow. What the hell could he possibly want? Then another message came through. I didn't know she was married at first. She never told me. When I found out, I ended things. I just thought you should know. I stared at the screen. For a moment, I debated responding. Then I simply deleted the message because his excuses didn't matter. He wasn't the one who betrayed me. She was, and I wasn't going to waste another second thinking about either of them. A month later, Mark convinced me to go out. It's time, man, he said, tossing me a clean button-up. You're single, you're thriving, and you don't owe Lena another damn second of your life. And you know what? He was right. So I said yes, not to replacing Lena, but to moving on. That night, at a rooftop bar downtown, I met Emma. She wasn't just beautiful, she was real. Honest. The kind of person who didn't play games. We talked for hours, laughing over drinks, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light, like the weight of my past was finally fading. As we walked through the city, Emma glanced at me. So, Tom, she said, a teasing smile on her lips. What's next for you? I looked around, the skyline, the fresh air, the life I was finally choosing for myself, and I smiled. Whatever the hell I want. And I knew, deep down, I meant it. A few months had passed since I walked away from Lena, and my life was finally my own again. No more lies, no more waiting for someone to maybe change, no more feeling like I was just an afterthought in my own marriage. I wasn't just healing, I was thriving, and the more time that passed, the more I realized something. I didn't miss her, not even a little. One morning, as I was heading out for a run, an unknown number called me. I had a feeling I knew who it was. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, a message popped up. Tom. I don't even know if you'll read this. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't matter now, but I've had a lot of time to think. I miss you. I miss us. And I just wanted you to know that. I stared at the screen, then I laughed, because she still didn't get it. She missed what she lost, not me. If she truly cared, she wouldn't have cheated in the first place. She wouldn't have lied to my face for months, she wouldn't have only apologized after she had no other choice. I deleted the message without replying because she was just another mistake I had left behind, and that felt better than any revenge ever could. I wasn't just getting over Lena, I had outgrown her, everything I had once built my life around. Gone, but in its place, I had built something better. I had my own apartment now. No reminders of the past, just a space that was completely mine. I had a new routine. No more waiting up for someone who didn't care. Now, I spent my nights doing things I actually enjoyed. I had new people in my life. Friends who actually respected me. A woman who didn't play games, and most importantly, I had myself back. That night, as I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, I thought about how different my life had become. I wasn't stuck in a cycle of distrust anymore. I wasn't waking up with a pit in my stomach, wondering if my wife was lying to me. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't even angry. I was free. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my blocked contacts, and hovered over Lena's name one last time, then I hit delete. Not because I was running from the past, but because it no longer had anything to do with me. Deleting Lena's number was the final step in cutting her out of my life completely. And no more second guessing. No more wondering what could have been. And no more her. And it felt damn good. A week later, I was at a rooftop bar with Mark and some friends when something unexpected happened. I spotted Jason. He was sitting at the bar alone, nursing a drink, looking miserable. I smirked. So things between him and Lena hadn't worked out. Couldn't say I was surprised. Mark followed my gaze and scoffed. Man, look at him. I bet Lena did to him exactly what she did to you. I shook my head. Doesn't matter. He was never the problem. She was. Because I had realized something. Jason wasn't the first guy Lena had cheated with, and he sure as hell wasn't the last. She wasn't capable of being loyal, not to me, not to him, not to anyone, and that's why she lost everything. I turned my attention back to Emma, who was laughing at something one of our friends had said. She caught me looking at her and smiled. It was genuine. No games. No lies. I smiled back, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't worried about someone betraying me. I wasn't stuck in the past. I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was just living, and that was something Lena would never have again. It had been 6 months since I walked away from Lena, and with each passing day, she became less and less relevant to my life. First, I thought getting over her would take time. That the betrayal would haunt me, that I'd struggle to trust again, but the truth, I got over her faster than I expected. Because once you see someone for who they really are, once you accept that they were never truly yours in the first place, you stop grieving. You just move on, and that's exactly what I did. One evening, after a long day at work, I checked my email out of habit. And there it was. An email from Lena. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got the best of me. "Can we talk, Tom? I know you probably hate me. And I know I don't deserve your time, but I just wanted to say this, that I miss you. Not just because of what we had, but because you were my best friend. I messed up. I was selfish. And I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wish things had ended differently. I hope you're doing okay." I read it twice, then, without responding, I deleted it, because I didn't owe her a single word. She wasn't my problem anymore. A month later, I ran into Lena at a coffee shop. She saw me first. I could tell by the way her eyes widened, the way she froze mid-sip of her drink, like she wasn't expecting to see me. I had changed since she last saw me. I looked better. Stronger. Happier, because I was. She, on the other hand, she looked lost, like she had finally realized that I wasn't coming back. She stood up, like she was debating whether or not to approach me. I didn't give her the chance. I turned, walked out the door, and never looked back. That night, as I sat across from Emma, laughing over dinner, I thought about how different my life had become. I wasn't stuck in a cycle of pain and betrayal anymore. I wasn't waking up with a pit in my stomach, wondering if my wife was lying to me. I wasn't carrying anger, regret, or heartbreak. I was happy. Emma smiled at me. "You look like you're thinking about something." I chuckled, shaking my head. Just realizing how good life is now. And it was true, because Lena didn't ruin me, she just set me free, and that was the best thing she ever did for me. If there's one thing I took away from all of this, it's this: sometimes, losing someone isn't a loss. It's a gain. Lena thought she could destroy me. Instead, she made me stronger. And as I sat there, with a woman who actually valued me, living a life that was completely mine, I realized something: I didn't just move on. I won. A full year had passed since I walked away from Lena, and by now, she was nothing more than a distant memory. No more messages. No more attempts to reach out. No more her. And honestly, I barely thought about her anymore, because life had given me something so much better. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be happier without Lena, I don't know if I would have believed you, but now, I knew for a fact that leaving her was the best decision I ever made. I had rebuilt my life. I got my own place, started focusing on my own happiness, and for the first time in years, I was living on my terms. I was in the best shape of my life. Without the stress, the anxiety, the constant second-guessing, I had real energy again. I was in a relationship with a woman who actually respected me. No games. No lies. No betrayal. Just real love. And the best part, Lena got exactly what she deserved. One day, while I was scrolling through social media, I came across something unexpected. A post from a mutual friend. It was a picture of Lena, sitting at a bar, drink in hand, alone. The caption: "Some people never change." I didn't even need details to know what happened. She lost me, she lost Jason, and now, she was right back where she started: lying, cheating, chasing temporary happiness because she was too broken to build something real. I stared at the picture for a moment and then I just laughed, because Lena wasn't my problem anymore. She was just another lesson I had learned. People say revenge is getting even. I disagree. The best revenge, it's being so damn happy that you don't even care what your ex is doing anymore. And as I sat in my apartment, watching the sunset with a woman who truly valued me, I realized something: that I didn't just move on, that I didn't just win, that I was finally free, and that was better than any revenge could ever be.